What's going on, everybody? This is Kris Dehnert with Dugout Mugs. As we like to do, we bring on cool guests from time to time. And Bob's a pretty tough guy to track down these days. He's been super busy with the Negro League Baseball Museum, which we're going to get into. But what we did, and I'll talk about this right off the bat. So we came up with custom mugs for the Negro League Baseball Museum. We have our standard. We also made the new stainless, and we did an inked version, which, Bob, I love the way this one turned out with the colors. It really gives it kind of that dated look to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so there are Cheers to Charity recipient for Q1 this year. And Bob Kendrick, welcome. We'd love to have you. Thanks for coming on again. You're always a pleasure.
Oh, Kris, man, it is my pleasure. Thanks so much for making time to have me on the show. And I'm really glad both of our schedules could connect so that we could do this.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. I know you're busy. And I wanted to jump into some of that, right? So what we have going on with the mugs is our Cheers to Charity. We're raising money. We start off, we donate a few $1,000 right off the bat. And then we run these mugs for a few months. And we've sold over like 200 so far, by the way. So there's a couple hundred Dugout mugs out there with the Negro League logos on them, which is cool. But anybody that wants to participate in this, it's only going for the rest of this month. And that's dugoutmugs.com/NLBM, Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. So check out that link while we're talking. Bob, what's going on? We touched on a few key points, but like there's some big stuff happening over there.
Yeah, a lot of great things happening, Kris. And really for us, it started at the end of last year. We had a great year last year, but at the end of last year kind of was the springboard into 2022 when our friend, the late great Buck O'Neil, it was announced that he had finally been voted into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. And so that just kind of catapulted us into 2022. We literally hit the ground running. I couldn't be more excited for Buck. You know, the only disappointment for me is I wish he was still with us.
Yeah.
When he missed by one vote in 2006, he subsequently died that same year at age 94, a month shy of his 95th birthday. And that was right after he had gone to the Hall of Fame and spoke on behalf of 17 other Negro Leaguers who had gotten in, all of them dead, after he had missed by one single vote. And I still say it was one of the most selfless acts in American sports history, because the world was saying to Buck, this should be your induction speech. And there he was speaking on behalf of those who didn't have a voice. But 15 years later, he finally gets his coronation and gets enough votes to get into the National Baseball Hall of Fame. I've been smiling every
Are you going? You got to be going.
Yeah, no, we're making plans now for 2 Hall of Fame celebrations.
Yeah.
One KC to Cooperstown. And of course, the ceremonies are scheduled for Sunday, July 24th. And then a big Hall of Fame celebration back here in Kansas City that will be held in conjunction with what would have been Buck O'Neil's 111th birthday. So that is Saturday, November the 12th, back here in Kansas City. It's going to be a major celebration. You know, it's so exciting that Buck is getting in, but we also have to do what Buck wanted us to do, and that is to turn his Hall of Fame celebration into a fundraising opportunity for his museum. We have to cash in on this. And so we hope we can generate a great deal of support around Buck's museum with the occasion.
Well, so I have a Hall of Fame license. And I can make Buck O'Neil National Baseball Hall of Fame mugs. Yeah. So let's talk about that, because maybe I'll do a collab. I'll get in touch with the Hoff and then you guys, and we'll collab and make a really cool thing for Buck, and we can do that towards his museum.
That would be great.
That would be great. Yeah. Let's definitely put a pin in that. I'll watch back this video after the fact, and we'll put that on the checklist.
But that really kind of got jump started us, man. And so we're excited.
Oh yeah, of course.
Excited about what's going to happen with the rest of this year as we prepare now for the 75th anniversary of the breaking of baseball's color
Jackie
barrier.
Robinson.
And you cannot talk the integration of our sport without talking Kansas City and without talking about the Negro Leagues, because it all began here in Kansas City with the great Kansas City Monarchs as we look at Jackie Robinson. Jackie plays here, Kris, in 1945. And I still think a lot of people think that Jackie just walked out of nowhere and started playing for the Brooklyn Dodgers. But his real rookie season was here in Kansas City in 1945. And by the end of the 45 season, he was gone. His teammates had no idea where he was. And as we now know, Branch Rickey had summoned him to New York to talk about him becoming the chosen one to break
the color barrier.
6-decade-long self-imposed color barrier.
Well, see, I think these are the stories and the backstories that are in the museum, right? And I don't think enough people, well, obviously not enough people have been there until they've all been there, celebrating the game and really understand the roots of it, not just the flowers they see now. Like I think it's it's not really flowers either right now, is it? With the lockout and everything going on, but the history of the game, it goes all the way back to these roots.
Yeah.
Oh, I know. There's a lot pending on that. I mean, even the Jackie Robinson Day mid-April is kind of pending on the lockout.
It's scary to think that there's a possibility that we may not be playing baseball on this milestone anniversary, and what it meant not only to the game of baseball, but what it meant to the advancement of this country socially. You see, Kris, we make the assertion that Jackie Robinson's breaking of Major League Baseball's color barrier wasn't just a part of the civil rights movement, that it was actually the beginning of the civil rights movement in this country. So this is before Brown versus the Board of Education. This is before Rosa Parks' refusal to move to the back of the bus. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was merely a sophomore at Morehouse College when Jackie signs his contract to play in the Dodgers organization. President Truman would not integrate the armed forces until a year after Jackie. And really, so for all intents and purposes, this is what started the ball of social progress rolling in our country.
Was that how, because y'all just recently got added to the Civil Rights Trail, and that probably is why, right?
That is exactly why, and that is why I'm so elated about our recent addition to the U.S. Civil Rights Trail, because that means the message is getting home. So people are understanding that our museum is far more than just a baseball museum. Now, it is a wonderful place where you'll meet some of the greatest athletes to ever put on a baseball uniform. But this is as much a civil rights museum and a social justice museum as it is a baseball museum. It's just seen through the lens of baseball. But as I remind people all the time, it is triumph over that adversity. And so our addition to the U.S. Civil Rights Trail is quite significant, is a tremendous feather in the hat of this museum. And I know it's going to have an impact from a tourism standpoint, because there are people who actually follow the trail.
Agreed.
And the trail takes you along a path of these important places that were instrumental in advancing civil rights in our society. In the state of Missouri, man, there's only 3 of us on the trail. That's the old courthouse in St. Louis where the Dred Scott case took place, Harry Truman's library, the presidential library in Independence, Missouri, and that's primarily because of Truman's integration of the armed forces, and now the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And for this to happen in the 75th anniversary year of Jackie's breaking of the color barrier makes it even more special. But you're right, it means that it has resonated. We've been able to get that message home that this is more than just a baseball museum.
Well, it's not lack of work and effort either. I mean, you guys are busting your butt like all the time. I just saw y'all on Bally. It just popped up because I Dugout was mentioned or something. So all the time I'm seeing these cool video, by the way. Thanks for the promo. But I'm always catching these, these spots where you guys are at, and like there's Bob and Keona's always talking about stuff, and it's really neat. I appreciate hustle and grind and grit, right? For that matter, that's everybody in the walls of your museum showcase those same traits, right? So it's like it's not up to you to be lazy and half-assed.
You can't be. You can't be. If you're going to be a true representative of this history, you can't be. And that, and you're right. You would not believe how much those aspects motivate us. When we talked about what happened in 2020, as we all went through and still going through a pandemic, and how it impacted our organization, and we were shuttered for 3 months, from March 14th through June 16th. And yet somehow or another, you understand that you cannot wallow in self-pity. To wallow in self-pity would be doing a complete disservice to those who call the Negro Leagues home. Kris, they never cried about the social injustice. They went out and did something about it. You
Yeah.
won't let me play with you, I create my own. And
Mhm.
so we knew that we had to dig into that same resilient spirit that governed the Negro Leagues to pull ourselves out of what was certainly one of the most dire situations that I can remember for the museum. Maybe going back to the recession there in the mid 2000s when everybody was hurt so greatly during the recession. But this pandemic was having an indelible impact on so many people and so many institutions, particularly cultural institutions like the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And we knew we had to go, if you're going to go down, you go down fighting. And,
Yeah.
and we knew we had to do that. And we were able to take what appeared to be doom and gloom and turn it into renewed hope and optimism. And we've been riding that wave ever since.
Well, we dealt with something similar with Dugout. Obviously, it's a completely different organization and infrastructure, but it's really buying into the idea that tough times create strong men, right? And not men versus like just men, obviously men and
Exactly.
women,
If
but
people
tough times
exactly.
create strong men. And when that happens, when the easy times are there, you don't get weak. Well, many get weak again, but if the ones that stay strong, they really get moving.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think we grew by 2.5x in 2020. Like what? Because we just buckled down. We're like, hey, we doubled down on people, on processes, and work harder. And then when we snapped out of this, for the most part, just kept cruising, And we recently got into Fanatics and Dick's Sporting Goods. I know you guys got something good happening with Dick's Sporting Goods too. I'd like to talk about that. Obviously, we're just bringing it up, but yeah, like you're right. You're right. And now that things are getting slightly simpler,
Yeah.
you guys already have the momentum, and you're just going to keep
Great.
riding that out.
Got some great momentum going, and
Yeah, you do.
the level of engagement around this museum, I think, is at an all-time high. And so we have to capitalize. We have to strike while the proverbial irons are hot. We've got some very ambitious plans, not only for this year, but looking to the future for this museum. And so we want to continue to build on this growing, I guess, affinity for this organization. And we got some great things to build on. Like I said, planning a Buck O'Neil Hall of Fame celebration, being a lead horse on the commemoration of Jackie Robinson's breaking of the color barrier, the new U.S. Mint commemorative coins, the first ever U.S. Mint coins dedicated to the Negro Leagues. They're in the marketplace right now for people to buy. And Kris, if we're able to sell through, there are three beautiful coins.
Where can people find those, by the way?
At usmint.gov.
Okay, usmint.gov. Okay.
And you can find these commemorative coins honoring the Negro Leagues. And if we're able to sell through the full allotment of the coins, there are approximately 850,000 coins being minted. And if we're able to sell through them all, we could raise $6 million in surcharges back to this museum. Man, that's a game changer. That is a game changer for an organization our size. And it allows us to really now start to dream long term about the possibilities and growth opportunities that are there for us with this museum. And so you can see why I'm so excited about this year.
That's big momentum.
In particular.
Well, and I saw there was a bobblehead set release, which bobbleheads are fun, but it's also another level of like getting there. You know what I mean? It's yeah.
And what we're trying to do is be as creative as we can. We've got some amazing licensees who are also being creative, and to take the Field of Legends. And the Field of Legends is the centerpiece of the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, Kris. And it features 10 life-size bronze sculptures of Negro League greats.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they're all in position as if they were playing a game, cast in position as if they were playing a game. And they are amazing. And so one of the licensees decided, like, okay, I think it'd be cool to depict the entire field and all the statues that are there in the museum. And they created this puzzle set. I had never heard of this before.
And so they're all interlocked, yeah.
Yeah, they're all kind of interlocked together to make it look just like a small replica of our Field of Legends. And obviously, I'm biased. I am biased. I'll be the first to admit. I think the Field of Legends is one of the most amazing displays in any museum anywhere in the world. And as I mentioned, it's the centerpiece. So when you walk into the museum, you peer through a chicken wire backstop and you can see the field, but you can't get to it. Yeah, we segregate our guests from the field because we want to force you to learn their story as basically having you earn the right to take the field. And in many respects, it is symbolic of what it took for Jackie to break through to get to the major leagues. And I'm not kidding, man. By the time you go through and you bear witness to everything that they had to endure just to play baseball, and then you walk out on that field, you feel it. You genuinely feel it. And I've seen our visitors, and I don't care what color you are, black, white, brown, red, green, blue, man, they are moved to tears. It is that kind of compelling experience. It can be very emotional. And when you look into the players' eyes, these statues are amazing. And even more so when you realize that all the players that are depicted in these statues, they were dead when we started this museum. Buck O'Neil was the only one that was still alive. And he always said when he go up to his statue, he said it was so eerie because usually when you're a statue, you're dead. Yeah, more times than not, you rarely get to see yourself as a statue.
He was with the museum for what, like 15 or 16 years, right?
15 years before he passed away.
Yeah.
He served as our volunteer chairman for 16 years. And I say it oftentimes, and this is with no disrespect to anyone who had a hand in helping build this great institution. It doesn't happen without Buck O'Neil. He was the heart and soul of this museum. And that's why I affectionately call the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum the house that Buck built. In New York, you had the house that Ruth built. Here in Kansas City, we got the house that Buck built, the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum.
Well, that's extra special, man. I mean, the fact he's going into the hall, then,
yeah,
that's got to be just a hell of a moment for you guys.
Well, it is, and again, it's just kind of, it's almost like the stars have been aligning. Mm-hmm. And again, now we still, Kris, got to cash in. You know, as a businessman yourself, you can create these opportunities. They don't always necessarily mean that you're going to make them generate the kind of resources that you hope that they will. So we still have a lot of work to do, but we've set ourselves up to be in a great position to cash in, you know, and we just have to do so. And everybody has been tremendously responsive, however. You know, it seems almost every time we have a call to action, people respond. Mm-hmm. And I have no doubt that we'll continue to see that level of participation in this museum. People are really embracing this museum. And I think it has taken on even greater value today than ever before.
That's awesome. Speaking of calling to action, I want to mention back for anybody who's just jumping in. So what we did with Bob in the museum is we came up with 3 mugs. You go to dugoutmugs.com/NLBM. These 3 mugs here. So we have our stainless. It's our 20-ounce tumbler style mug. Then we have our inked version, which is all UV printed on there. And then we have the original. I mean, I love this one. This is our flagship.
I love that one too. That stainless steel though is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I'll send you this one. I'll send you this one when we're done, and that way, because I'm drinking my coffee out of it. They're spill proof. You just drop it on the floor. It's awesome. Y'all need to have some of these in the museum. Yeah, you need to tell Kiona to call me and get some of these for the shelves. People will buy them.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah, so we'll do that. But for now, anybody that wants to buy these, absolutely, /NLBM, Dugout Mugs /NLBM. So, well, I know you're super busy, man. I know we blocked off 20 minutes. We're coming up on that pretty soon. We talked about Jackie Day. We talked about what I saw a question come in, which I was curious to answer too. In your opinion, who was the most underlooked Negro League player that never got a shot at the MLB Association?
There's so many of them.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you a couple real quickly. One of my favorites hails from Cuba, the great Martin de Higo, nicknamed him El Maestro, the master, because he could do it all. Y'all, he played all 9 positions, played all 9 of them well. He is the only baseball player in the history of our sport to be enshrined into 5 different countries' baseball halls of fame.
I've never even heard of him.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's in the Mexican, Cuban, Venezuelan, Dominican, and in Cooperstown. And most baseball fans have never heard of him. And it's like, how could you not know about a guy who was as good as Martin de Higo? And then another guy is the great Oscar Charleston, who is in center field on our Field of Legends. The Higo is at the plate. We put him at the plate, and Oscar Charleston is in center field. And my friend Buck O'Neill would say without hesitation that Oscar Charleston was the greatest baseball player he ever saw, that he was Willie Mays before we ever knew who Willie Mays was. And the old timers in the Negro League say the closest thing to Oscar Charleston would have been Willie Mays. Man, that is frightening. That is frightening. He was the consummate five-tool guy. Hit for power, hit for average, could field, could run, could throw. In 1921, Oscar Charleston led the Negro Leagues in home runs, triples, doubles, stolen bases, and batting average in the same season.
Man, see, and that's why and again, by the time you and I met originally, I mean, we were right in the middle of COVID and all this crazy stuff going on. So I've not even made it up there yet. But to me, I have a saying that I love. I think life is nothing more than a collection of the stories and their intensity, right? And your experiences. And that's what the museum really is. It's just a collection of stories, and it allows people to just learn, right? Like, I'm big on learning, in all facets of life. But I think this is super cool about what y'all do. It's not just showcasing who you know, like Mickey or Babe or Griffey or Mariano, all legends, right? But it's not telling you more about the people you know. It's telling you everything about people you don't.
Yeah, and that's what I found fascinating when I got involved, Kris. Hard to believe now, 29 years ago.
Oh, wow. Congrats.
Yeah, I started here as a volunteer in 1993. And what you just described is exactly how I felt when I was introduced to this story.
It has to be.
I considered myself to be a baseball fan, and now all of a sudden I'm being introduced to a whole nother
baseball student
in American history I didn't know anything about. And I'm like, how could I not know this? And so now I'm just trying to be on the museum's team and promote and do whatever we could to help bring the needed attention to this forgotten chapter of baseball history. Now, I never saw it turning into a career. And I think one of the most gratifying things I could have ever done, I literally walked into my passion the day I stepped foot into a one-room office across the street from where we now operate. Yep. In 1993, I walk in, and I'm looking for the executive director, and his name was Don Motley. He passed away now. And I said, Mr. Motley, I'm looking for the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum. And he says, son, you're standing in it. So,
you can touch two of the walls from where you stood.
But I had no idea. I was literally had just walked into what would become my passion.
Well, hey, sometimes that's how it is. Maybe the future of it was waiting for you to walk into it.
And perhaps it was.
And it's how all these stories intertwine is really what history's made of.
Yeah, no, I totally agree.
That's awesome. Well, my man, I appreciate you. I'm looking forward to having these in Kansas City. I think people would love them there as much as they love them here. Let's keep telling the story. We've already raised thousands of dollars for you guys, so we'll get it to you at the end of the month. It's not $6 million, so I really hope I can get the word out about the U.S. Mint thing. But it all matters.
A step closer.
Everything's one step closer. So if anybody is trying to support what they're doing over there, go online, get these. They're only like $39. I mean, normally our custom mugs are $70, $75, right? These are $39. Go get the Negro League Baseball Museum. It's going to a great cause. It's branding a great organization, and it's being part of the movement for what Bob and his whole team are doing. So I'm going to let you run, brother. I know you got a lot of stuff to get into this week. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for coming. We're going to get this shared across a few different platforms and share it for the rest of the month and beyond that as well. So thanks again for your time so much.
Hey, man, Kris, it's my pleasure. Thank you. And thank you and your team over at Dugout Mugs for what you're doing to support the Negro Leagues Baseball Museum, man. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, we love what y'all are doing, buddy.
So, thank you, sir.
All right.